This course is going to be a little bit different than things you've encountered earlier on at Full Sail, but it's structured in a way to help you work at your own pace as well as present you with helpful information to then in turn build your level that we're going to be diving into. So before I talk about the assignments for this class, I just want to talk about just some really helpful things about FSO. So the announcements, if you weren't aware of the announcements, we do utilize them a lot in this class and in the midterm project. You'll see I already sent out a announcement earlier about I'm actually on vacation this week, but I still wanted to do the conference call today and be available for a little bit of time today, but I will be out of town for the rest of the week. And as well as Anthony was posting like the issues with the project setup as well as the Discord that we use. So definitely make sure that you just check the announcements and pay attention to them. Just know where they're located on FSO. So that being said about Discord, if I just check out the Discord announcement, if you're not already part of our server, you can join there. And then please, when you do, I know that a few guys that are joining me today are already in the channel, but once you verify yourself in the verification channel, down in the student channel, or the student category, is the join course channel. So each month you can type in the course that you're in. So this month you can just type in IND2 into the join course, and your role should update if it hasn't already. Then from there, you'll get access to the IND2 discussion where you can post any questions or problems you're having here directly about this class. Hopefully you guys already know about that, but just want to review it because it is real important. One thing I'm just going to talk about quickly is in my course policies. This is where I would mention things would be a little bit different than what you're used to at Full Sail. I try to structure my class as best as possible to accommodate for everybody's schedules and everybody's personal situations that happen in life, right? So how everything works is the assignments are all going to be open from the beginning. You can see here, if I look at like the design tasks, everything's open right from, or the technical tasks, everything's open right from the beginning, right? There are due dates when the things will, when they're due, but if we take a look at the course policies, um, I have listed on here in the late submission. So while there are due dates throughout the month, the assignments can be submitted late up until the final date within that module. So what's that mean? That means the technical task can be submitted up to the final date of the technical task. So if you miss one of the assignments or you don't get it in by the deadline, you will get a small deduction of 10 professionalism points, but that's not very big, right, compared to a 0 on the grade. So you can still submit the assignments up until that final day, but they can't be extended beyond that. I need time to actually grade the assignments and go through all everyone's work. So that's my late policy in the course. Pretty much there are those due dates. Everything's open from the beginning, as well as you have to complete them to unlock the next activity. So you'll see on your end it should say prerequisites like this. So in order to do the control station, I have to first do the project setup. I can't just jump around to the assignments I want. They are just progression, so do them in order, and then I will give you feedback and give you, a grade as you go through the assignments. All right, and then also just about submitting your work. There was a assignment submission in here. Once you're done with it and you mark it as completed, that's when I'm going to grade the activity. So if you're still working on it or you still need help trying to figure something out, don't mark it as complete. Send Anthony or I a message, either in FSO or Discord, and we'll definitely get that corrected. So by saying I've completed it, that means you're ready for it to be graded. All right. All right, this course policies can also find the tools that we'll be using for the month. So Unity 2018.3.14 is the version we're going to be using for the month, as well as I recommend getting the Unity Hub so that you can manage all of your different versions of Unity. All right, another helpful thing that I laid out for you guys as I was building the course and trying to work through the deadlines and things. This was something that I built to just try to structure the overall class So if you want to take a screenshot of this, I don't have this listed anywhere in this class other than just this video. But if you want to take a screenshot of this as like a way to stay on task in the course, this could be a really helpful thing. So what you see in here is I don't have any basically major tasks broken down on Saturday and Sunday. I pretty much just tried to break down small tasks to work on each day of the week, right? Just like if you're working at a job, and then the weekend's open. So if something you need to do or get out of the way, right, take care of life things, you can do that on the weekend, or you can also catch up on the remaining assignments, right? So like the LDD isn't technically due until Sunday, but I have it structured this way, so basically by the end of the week, you got all your stuff knocked out and you can enjoy your own personal time. All right, so we're going to talk about each one of these assignments each week as we meet each Tuesday. So hopefully you've already taken a look at the game design document and the creative vision. If not, that's okay, right? You still got time to get caught up and work on these, but try to stay on top of things. If you wait and put off a lot of this stuff till the end, it is going to feel overwhelming, and there is going to be a lot of work, and you won't really enjoy this level design process, right? So definitely take the time to do each assignment and work each day, even if it's just for an hour or 2 hours a day. That's going to be a better end result. You're going to have a better level in the end rather than waiting till the very last minute. All right. So in my assignments, so I'm going to take a look at the first design task for the class. You'll see in the assignment itself, each assignment will have a video playlist. This is going to be a video series that I've created discussing the concepts of this class, right, or of this specific assignment. So you can work through these right here. Where I'm actually going to be talking about the creative and technical track. I'm going to highlight some of these concepts today, but really check out each one of these videos for a full in-depth guide, as well as like things for your level design document. I have them broken up into modular videos, so it's just easier to go back to and reference rather than having to sit through, a big 2-hour video. So a few of the slides from that playlist I want to cover is this one right here. So you might just be wondering, okay, what the heck is this class all about, and why am I focused on level design in this month? All right. So during the Project in Portfolio 2 course, your goal is to create a level design map. Think of this as like the blueprints or the guide to building your level. If anyone's ever purchased a Prima strategy guide, maybe for a game they've been playing, it's very similar to what we'll be building in this class. We'll also be like taking a look at some of those guides and other different maps that have been made by industry professionals, and how we can try to build our levels to that quality right off the get-go. So in this class, we're focused on the mechanics and the setups, right? We're focused on the actual gameplay of what the player is doing in the level. This is the point in the project where the majority of the design will take place. Also, at the same time, we're going to be working with Perforce and working with Unity to basically evaluate if you're ready to now build a level. So we have some small exercises and tasks that will show you how to use Perforce alongside Unity, as well as animate in Unity, script, and talk to different game objects, and provide you the tools that you'll need to be successful to build your actual level. So then what you'll do in level design is you'll take this map that you've built in this course. Level design is the next class or the following after statistics. So after my class, you'll go into level design and you'll actually take your map and implement it into Unity and actually build it inside the game engine. So the focuses for this month are actually blocking out and constructing the geometry, but also, and most importantly, the functionality. Actually getting your mechanics to work. So in my class, if you designed exploding barrels that blow up against metal walls, right, you would actually build the exploding barrels and get them to blow up when they should. right, and get them to actually function. So in this month, it's all about the gameplay, all about the actual playability of the level that you build. Then finally in Project and Portfolio 3 is when you take your individual areas that you've built, because you've been working as individuals in my class and working in individuals in level design, you'll take your areas that you've made and connect them. You'll create a team and connect your areas together. And you'll focus on player communication, level cohesiveness, making sure textures are matching, making sure the systems in the levels are consistent among students, as well as transitions between your areas. So in this building you see here, maybe the player at the very end gets picked up by a helicopter and then flown and dropped off at the next area. That's something you'll focus on and build inside of the PNP3 course. And then finally, adding the visuals and aesthetics, adding the materials, adding the lights, making it feel like a polished experience. And we have an asset depot, and we have different assets you can use to populate your level with. So I just wanted to give you a high level concept of what it is we're actually doing and what we're building towards. And that way you get a little bit more understanding as why you're building a bubble diagram or why you're making the map, and the overall goal in the end is to take your design and implement it in the engine with a team. All right, so definitely check out in the level design document instructions, you'll see this lecture video playlist. That's where you can find all of those videos talking about that specific assignment. Really, really helpful to talk about the project and the different areas of the design document. All right, so I'm going to switch gears for now, and I'm going to go over to the project setup. So in the technical tasks, in the project setup, so definitely check out each one of these. So Perforce setup you'll need to do before you even start. This is just downloading the version of Perforce. Make sure you're using 2018.4. And then this is just logging into the server, which I'm about to do. All right, so make sure you do that first. And then also, here's another Perforce Basics playlist and video instructions. So check these out. Definitely make sure you watch through each one of these videos. This is going to start with basically just talking about files on your computer, leading into getting into the server, the interface, going over all the actions. And then once you get through that, and in a total, this whole playlist is only about 40 minutes, so it's not super long. But then towards the end here, adding the project, opening the project, importing the package, these are all part of the project setup. So these will give you the understanding and explain action in a very simple structure, but without using the game engine. And then this will get into project setup. All right, so I'm going to open up the Perforce window. All right, so if your icon looks like a little orange V, that's going to be because you have the older version. Make sure it's got like the blue hexagon with the little monitor inside. And your version right here says 2018.4. So there's the server address, gdnbs.fullsail.com, :2882. Your username is everything before the @ of your Full Sail email. So if my email is aoconnor@fullsail.com, my username is just aoconnor. I actually have a demo account that I'm going to use. And now a workspace is just a folder on your computer. So if I browse and look, so when I go to create a new workspace, actually I'm going to create a new one. If it asks you for a password, at first you can create your own. You can create it, definitely remember it, write it down somewhere. If you do forget your password, let me know and I can reset it for you. But the first time you log in, you'll be asked to create a password. All right, and now we see this window, the workspace. So the workspace is just a folder on your computer. That's what a workspace is. It's a folder. All right, so the name is the name of where that of the name of the folder, and the root is the location where it is. I recommend keeping it in the default location, but shorten your workspace name. I recommend something very short, like A. O'Connor or like your initials _FS, something short, and this is a workspace you can use throughout your entire time at Full Sail. It's just a folder on your computer, and then each month you're going to get access to new classes. I'm going to put a 6 on the end just so I remember that this is the one I made for June. But again, you can make one generic workspace and use it your entire time here at Full Sail. Alright, so once you log in, it might look something like this. If I can get the layout back to what you're used to seeing. Alright, so here you see we have the depot in the workspace. The depot is the shared server that everyone sees. The workspace is just this folder on my computer. So if I go ahead and open up a File Explorer window, oh, I gotta put something in it first. So I'm going to open up the GDNBS folder, and everyone should see this. See your ASCORE project inside this folder here, and then you see the IND folder. So this is the class you're in. The 6 is the term, right? So we're in June, and then inside that you should see your section. So I'm right now basically simulating what it's like to be a student in section 1, but you should only see that folder based on which section you're currently in. All right, and now inside these we have working and compiled. And good, I already see some names in here, but we'll explain what these folders are. All right, so working, this is where your Unity project is going to go. Think of this as like your working files, the ones that you're using to build the game and work on your assignments, right? So in this folder, you're going to practice checking out files and just submitting your work to the depot as you're working. Compiled, think of this as like the Steam store. Think of this as like an app store that you're pushing your build up to. So when you're done with an assignment and you're ready for it to be evaluated or ready for it to be played, you submit it into the compiled folder. All right. So working is for your Unity project. Compiled is for your build. Inside these folders, I see these get me files. So I'm just going to hold down Control and select both of them. And now I'm going to right click on those files and say get latest revision. What this does is it copies those two files into my workspace. All right, so now you see in my workspace, I have both of those files and I have this folder structure. So now if I try to show in Explorer, I see this File Explorer window pop up, right? And basically right now, what we're seeing in Perforce and what we're seeing in my File Explorer is exactly the same. We're looking at the same thing, just one through the Perforce interface, one through our computer. So now if I come over here and just say new folder, I'm just going to put in my name. Now I come back over to Perforce and refresh. Here you see that folder was created. All right. So now inside the ASCORE project, right, we have this Scraps project. And this is a Unity project that is up and running and working, right? So I'm just going to get latest revision. And while it's copying the files to my computer, here we go, I'm just going to explain a little bit more, right? So we've hired you guys to be level designers on this project. We have this game Scraps that we've been working on. We've been working on the game itself, but now we're to the point where we need levels to be built for the game, right? So we give you the core systems, we give you the character, we give you the Gravenhall and all the pieces, and your goal is to make a level for that game. So this project that we're going to set up right now, this project you can use all month long. You don't have to create a new project, assignment. Use one project throughout the entire month. All right, so now you see it says 100 or 1,700 files added. So I'm going to go into my workspace now, and there's my Scraps project. So now if I show this in Explorer, I'm just going to copy the folder, just Control C, and go back to IND, the month, the section, working. There's the folder I just made, and now paste. We're going to put that project inside of my own folder. Once it finishes, I'm just going to rename this. And again, keep the name short. If you have a really, really long last name or a long name in general, you might want to use something shorter just so the file path stays short. And when I say file path, I mean this long string of where the folder is on your computer. All right, so now if I come back over to Perforce and refresh in my workspace, you'll see those new files, right? There's the project, there's my assets, packages, and project settings. In the depot side, I don't yet see my files, right? So what the first thing I need to do is mark for add. So I'm going to select all of these folders, assets, packages, and project settings, and I'm going to hit mark for add. All right, so what that does is it's going to add the files into a change list. And again, I go over this in real explicit detail in the videos, but just a brief summary. A change list is like a shopping cart at the grocery store, right? You put your items in the cart, but they're not yet paid for until you go up front and actually submit your transaction, right? You check out and pay for your groceries. Well, we've added the files to our shopping cart, right? If I look at the files now, let's see if I'm marked for add. There we go. So if I look at the files now, you see there's a plus next to them, right? And they're added into a change list. So in this window right now, if my filter isn't applied, you see I'm seeing every single change list by every user on the server. All right, that's a lot of information. Instead, what we can do is hit this drop down and say the user is the current user and the workspace is the current workspace. So there's my change list, right? There's my shopping cart with the files in them. And now I'm just going to submit. Saying adding 1906 project files. All right, any questions at all up to this point while this is submitting? Alrighty, well, if not, I'm going to also, while this is submitting to Perforce, I'm just going to open the project in Unity. Yes, so Kimberly says, what do you do if one of the files doesn't copy? You're saying, so from the depot, when you get latest revision and it doesn't copy? Yes, okay, so if you're trying to get latest revision and it's like saying no files updated and it's not correctly copying, what you'll want to do is instead of using get latest revision, use this get revision ... right here. And then there's going to be this option. Oops. Right here, this force operation. So what this is going to do is it's going to replace the files even if Perforce thinks you have the most recent version. So sometimes, say for example, this get me file, if I were to delete it from my workspace, see if this actually works. See if I'm able to do this while doing other things. So I deleted that get me file, right? If I come over here and say get latest revision, It may not let me while it's... See, now it's saying no files updated because it's Perforce already says, like, what do you mean? You already have one of one. But when I say get revision and then force operation, now it's going to tell me one file updated there in my log, and it'll be back in my folder. So files get deleted. Perforce doesn't know that directly. A few other helpful things to reference that. Kimberly, you can check out the properly deleting files that will show you different ways to delete them, as well as I have a video for it. The get latest versus get revision video that will show the different two actions like I just did there. All right. So now that we've got it adding to Perforce, almost done there, let's open it up in Unity. So I'm going to click open. And now I need to find where that project is. Now, if you're looking at this and you're like, I have no idea where that project is, a good way to get access to it is in Perforce, right? I can show in Explorer. This is a quick way to just pop it into a file explorer window, and I recommend using the quick access. It makes my life so much easier by just pinning different folders and files. So you can pin your actual Perforce workspace if you want to. You can pin your working folder, anything you want. So for now, I'm just going to drag my project into quick access. So there it is. There's my Unity project for the month. And now I'm going to come back to Unity and now navigate and click on my Scraps project, right? So this is the project, so I'm going to hit select folder. I have you guys using 2018.3.14. If you want to use 2018.3.4, the original version the project was made with, you can, but it has been tested, and the most recent version of 2018.3 does work correctly. Okay, so now we see on the depot, if I look, you guys, if you're in section 1 by chance, you can also see my files in the depot, but if not, there they are on my screen. You can see in the depot, I have my assets, packages, and project settings. While Unity's loading right now, we're going to see some other folders. Oops. So notice these other folders that are here now. And while the project is loading, let me just open up the library, because we'll see, so yeah, when this pops up about it was opened in a different version, you can just hit continue. I do actually have a video that can show you how to get rid of that. And then hit yes on the packages file. So now, as this is building in Unity, you're going to see inside this library folder, all of a sudden, all of these files are going to be created and generated and honestly just constantly changing in the background. All right. So this library folder, we want to keep this off the depot. So remember, when files get added to the depot, they're set to be read-only, which means Perforce doesn't want other programs to change those files unless Perforce knows about it, right? That's why we check out the files, to actually allow other programs to change it. Same thing with the temp folder. This temp folder only exists when your Unity project is open. Otherwise, this folder will delete itself. So this temp folder prevents multiple versions of Unity being open at the same time. So if the temp folder and library folder get added to the depot, it's not the end of the world. We can fix those. But remember, on the depot, we only want assets, packages, and project settings. These 3 folders of a Unity project. In the playlist, I do have a library video right down here at the very last one. So if you do accidentally add your library folder to the depot and you're getting this error, this video will walk you through how to remove it, as well as explain, a little bit of the tech in the back why it's happening. So check that out. Even if you don't have the issue, it's good to watch in case you ever run into that problem. All right, looks like my Unity project's loading right now. So anybody else have any other questions, maybe about the design project, about like the LDD, about the scraps level you're making, or if you're having any technical problems um, with Unity or Perforce, you can also ask those as well.
I don't have any questions, mostly because I haven't looked through the document. I was mostly focused on getting Perforce and all of this to work firsthand before I threw myself into the template.
Understandable. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So let me go to the LDD, because there is a lot of like different material and different things to look at. So I definitely recommend checking out the videos so that can give a good general sense. Inside and as well as playing this Scraps Training Grounds, this is a pretty much an executable that's like simulating what a level could be. It's a really good way to just get a feel for the character and get a feel for how the character works and how the grav null works. It can help designing a level by understanding what the character can do, right, and what the constraints are in place. Let me go back. Let me open up the creative vision. This is like the real meat and the document you really want to familiarize yourself with. In level design, they become pretty strict about grading closely to this. Like this is the rubric. So like in a lot of ways, so like if you're adding things that are against it, you'll get points deducted and things like that. So check out the main pillars of the game, right? Manipulation, scavenging, and unaccompanied. So you're manipulating objects with your grav null. Think of like MacGyver, right? Using your environment, using your wits to overcome problems and overcome obstacles, to then basically solve problems or overcome barriers in the level, in the environment. So scavenging, finding helpful items, finding items in the environment to help solve those puzzles or to be useful items to then sell back to the Bastion. Unaccompanied, so you're by yourself, right? Remember, you are alone on this mission. You don't have a companion. You're not playing with another player. There's no other NPCs in the level. You are focused. You're the only uh, living thing out in the wastelands. This is a list of things that are against the creative vision, and we kind of have a description as to why. So repetitive level layouts, different themes like prison, hospitals, hotels, things that have a repetitive floor plan, right? They don't make it very inviting for level design. Um, any new controller or drivable vehicle. So we don't want the player to jump into a car and now drive across the level. What we can do though is ways to adjust that. Is we can do it with a cutscene, right? So we get into a car and now it's a cutscene of the player driving to getting from one spot to another. So as well as like having a tank like this in the or a cannon in this image that you see that the player controls and moves. There's definitely ways to do the same thing without the player actually getting behind it and controlling it. They could go up to some console and press the interact key and it moves, and you use the grav null to load it up with cannonballs and then press E to fire. So there's a lot of ways around what you want to do. As long as you're being creative, you can still accomplish that same end result. So yeah, no other NPCs. Stay away from sci-fi and fantasy. So Scraps is grounded in reality, right? It's in the not too distant future. So there is some technology, right? Like we have the grav null, which can levitate objects. That's already kind of pushing the boundaries. But it's set in reality. It's set in modern day time. No religious and political references. Stay away from teleporting the player and moving them around. All right, so these are the main sections there. Let me go back to, I should have the game. Yeah, here we go. The top of the game design document. This also includes the creative vision. So there's some spots where I have the same information in a few places, but it's really important, so I put it there. So like everything I just looked at was in this creative vision right here. The core gameplay, actually, is this? Yeah, this is in there. Okay, just making sure. So everything in the creative vision that's basically about the game is in the overview. The core gameplay is going to be how to play the game and the overall core mechanics, things that we have in place for you. So this will explain basically how the character works, how everything will actually come together, and the overall design ideas behind the actual core mechanics, right? So the core mechanics are mechanics that we give to you guys to then expand upon and make your own mechanics from. All right. So yeah, the core gameplay is going to be a lot of the actual controls. Here's some influences, different things we use as inspiration. The project template down below, this is more of the technical side of things, how the different tools that we have for you will work. These are things that we're going to go through throughout the month. So we're going to get all the way up to number 6. We're going to talk about all of these, and then these are going to come later on when you actually build your level. But all of these are in the project. So if you want to actually mess around and be like, how do I make something work with the GravNull? You can check out the documentation as well as check it out in Unity. But that is something we're going to do throughout the month. I'll get you guys ready and prepared to actually build these levels. All right, I thought there was a theme document, but I'm guessing, I believe the theme document is still right here in the template. So here's the LDD template, the link right up at the top here that lets you choose a theme. Please pick a theme from the pre-approved list right here. If there's another theme that you're thinking that you want to do but you don't see it here, let me know and ask, and I'll definitely make sure. I'll pretty much run it by the level design instructor so I don't tell you yes and then you get to him and he tells you no. We'll make sure we're communicating and on the same page. And there's a lot to pick from in here, and you can see they're very generic. So like when I say office building, that could be literally anything that has an office, any type of structure with an office. So I had said to the level design instructor, I'm like, oh, I don't see bank on here. Can we have a level set in a bank? He goes, yeah, of course. A bank is just an office building. I'm like, oh, okay. So, right, there's a lot of different ways that you can take this. But these are the types of themes. These are the areas you want to be focusing on. So check that out. And then the template itself is pretty short and sweet, right to the point, right? So we have the goal, the purpose of the level, your featured asset, which is, think of the featured asset like the problem in the level. The thing, the barrier the player has to overcome, or the thing that makes the goal a challenge. So if the goal is to collect the emeralds at the end of the level, well, what's making those emeralds hard to obtain? Are they just laying on the ground? Or are they, say, like locked away in a safe? Right? So the big vault door that the player needs to break into, and they, use different mechanics, or they use explosives to blow open the door. That object, that vault door, would be the featured asset, right? That's the problem or the obstacle the player has to overcome. All right, your 2 mechanics that you're going to be building are level-specific mechanics. So you don't want to change the player, you don't want to modify the core systems, but you want to use those as support. All right, so as an example of that, using a mechanic as support would be a very simple example is a pressure plate. And the player picks up a box using the GravNull and places it on the pressure plate. All right, so there you can see we're using the GravNull, or we're using it in support to something else in the level. All right, so a good level mechanic and every level mechanic should have a clear cause and effect. All right, so I gave you guys the cause. I just said the player picks up a box and places it on a pressure plate, and now the effect is something happens. Can anybody give me an example of what something might be? Put a box on a pressure plate and something happens. What is it?
Unlocks a trapdoor.
It unlocks a trap door. Good. Anybody else? There's no wrong answer. The pressure plate blows up or the box blows up? Or what is it? The box? All right, good. Yeah, and then maybe inside there's something that the player needs to use. Okay. Maybe you put it on the pressure plate and it raises or lowers elevator lifts. It moves them up and down. Or yeah, it slides out a piece out of the wall, and then you use that to overcome an obstacle. Or it powers on or off conveyor belts. Right. You could also do things like a force field changes colors from like red to orange, or those are bad colors, from like red to blue, right? And you know the different force fields allow different objects to pass through them. So think of a clear cause and effect in your level, right? The player should do something. There should be some input from the player, and something in turn happens, right? We could do the same exercise with a lever. The player walks up to a lever and presses E, and the lever is now on, and something happens. Whatever that is up to you to design, right? So design how the mechanic works, and then think about the setups in order to use those mechanics, to introduce practice and mastery. And that's definitely where watching those videos will start to make sense as to what I mean by introduce, practice, and master. All right, so let me jump back over to Unity real quick. Let's see if this is all working. All right, so I'm going to clear the console, and right when your project loads, first thing you can do is go to the Scraps Scenes folder and just double click on the Scraps Outpost. Give it a second to load. All right, so once this loads, I'm just going to hit play, see if my character works, see if there's any major errors in the console, see if everything's working fine. All right, so it looks like the character's working. And again, if you didn't play the Scraps Training Grounds, or if you haven't yet, you can also check out this little area. You can get a feel for basically the game, the different systems in the game. You get an idea for, you know, actually how to play. There we can crouch, E to interact, jump, right? We're completing different objectives. You know, over here we've got objectives. Move some boxes out of the way. So you can get a feel for, you know, how the game functions in this little space. The Scraps Training Grounds is more of a, you can kind of visualize more of an actual complete level, but this is like the tutorial area, right? We've built this little section. You're building the attachment to this place. All right. So once that's working, the next step is back in Perforce, you're going to see in your resources folder. So this is resources for this class specifically. So it's a Unity package. So I'm going to get latest revision to copy the package into my workspace. Once that's been done, I'm going to come back in and just import the package. So import package, custom package. And now let's find where that was. So I can just quickly navigate to IND resources. So this package has everything you need for this class specifically. IND2 and level design and PMP3, we all use the same Scraps project template, and this package is just specific to my class. So you're going to see another folder appear in here, the IND229 folder. That's the folder that you're going to add your assets to and add your level and your pieces to. The scraps folders here, the ones that have the scraps underscore, don't change those files, don't edit them in any way. These are the game files. But this folder here, this IND2 folder, this is yours to adjust and modify and add new pieces to. All right, so inside the IND2 folder, you're going to see the IND2 experiments. So if you're not familiar with multi-scene editing, we're able to put multiple scenes in the hierarchy at once to see how they're going to look when they're connected. So I can either drag this into the hierarchy, or I can right-click, open scene additive. Right, and there you can see it. All right, if I hit play, and I'll take care of a few issues that might come up now. I can walk over to that area, and also I can hit escape on the keyboard, and these are the list of checkpoints in the level. So I've set up a checkpoint for you guys. So if you hit IND2 experiments and escape again, it allows you to jump over quickly to that position. So just something to keep in mind when you're testing your work. You don't have to press play over and over and over again and keep walking over there. Also, if you play with the experiment scene active, so you see how the experiments is bold, and if I hit play, everything's still going to work fine, but you're going to get an error in your console about a checkpoint that's not set to an instance of an object. That's not going to break anything, but sometimes it's concerning to students when they see the error there. That's just because the outpost scene has the checkpoint system, and other scenes have checkpoints that are then referenced. So if they're loaded out of order, sometimes the checkpoint doesn't actually get loaded correctly. But that will all get fixed in the build and won't stop any major progression in the class. So inside the IND2 folder, you'll see these individual folders. So like control stations, the first major task you'll work on, and then like wind turbine, simple setup, and entryway. We're going to talk more about these folders as we go forward, but each folder is where you're going to put the assets for that specific task. All right, so now that I have this IND2 folder, I'm going to add this to Perforce, because this is oftentimes a step that is missed. All right, if I look in my project, and I look at my assets, see on the depot I don't have that IND2 folder, but if I look at my workspace, and assets, IND2, there it is, right? There's that whole folder. So select the folder and hit mark for add. Right click on it, mark for add. Add it to the default change list. And then submit. So I'm adding 1906 IND2 folder. All right, and if we look on FSO, each of the technical tasks has 3 major requirements that I'm looking for. So these tasks are pass-fail activities. So if you're reading through the instructions and participating, you should get 100 on each one. And these bullets are just things that you can double check to make sure that you've done it correctly. And I'll show you guys in these last few minutes how to actually verify if you've done it right or not. All right, so this first bullet here is that the assets, packages, and project settings have been submitted to the to this folder on the depot. And don't let those file paths intimidate you, right? It's the IND2, the term, the section, the working folder, and then your name and your project, right? So if I look in Perforce, we've got IND, the term, the section, working, and my name and my project. So if I look on the depot, you should see assets, packages, and project settings, right? So that's that first bullet. The second one is that Unity package has been imported into the project and the contents have been added to the depot. Don't forget about the mark for add step. So I've added it to a change list and then submitted. So now in the depot view, you should also be able to see your IND229 folder. Okay? Then lastly is a complete build has been submitted to the compiled folder, right, to the IND term section compiled folder. That's the last step we're going to do here. Let's see if it works for me. So now I'm going to go to File, Build Settings, and now I need to make sure I add my experiment scene to the build settings. So you can either hit Add Open Scenes or just drag it in, and make sure it's at the bottom. Don't rearrange these and don't turn off any of these. Make sure your scene is below this one here. It says Level Scenes below this scene. So now when I hit Build, it's going to ask me where I want to save the build. So I'm going to go to Section 1, Compiled, make a new folder. Alright, now with that, I'm going to go ahead and select the folder. And now make a build. And everything should go right, but if not, we'll definitely figure out why things aren't working. Any questions while this is building?
So one question for project one, or the first area of project, it's just putting like no added content, just making sure that we have the same Unity build set up, basically.
Yeah, just making sure that your build works and that you get the project set up correctly, so that way when we get to later assignments and you have to make a build, because we'll make a build for each activity, you've already verified you can make a build and things aren't broken. So yeah, this is just like getting your first initial test run up, and then you start changing the files and making a build as you go. So yeah, you don't have to add anything to the scene itself. It's just about making sure that the build works. Alright, while that's finishing, the last random tidbit I'm going to throw at you guys about the LDD is what I like to call the level layout guide. It's a really, really helpful document to break down pretty much what's asked of you in each category. So right here, this level layout guide, I have it in big bold so it kind of catches everybody's attention. So this again kind of go through the game manual. Here's that list of themes. It'll break down each category of the document and then explain what you need to do. So you can pick from your list of themes here. When we talk about a player goal, right, it should be some compelling action that the player completes. So kind of giving questions you should answer for your goal, and then like things to stay away from, like one generic sentence like make it to the end of the level or just collect items, things like that. These are also a good like synopsis of everything I talk about in the videos. So here we're talking about the featured asset, an opportunity to make some interaction, some type of progression in your level, and then the major mechanics. So we go through explaining the mechanics, like I talked about, having a clear cause and effect. Here's an example of a student's level design project if you want to check that out, as well as a really awesome video from Mark Brown in the Game Maker's Toolkit. So if you haven't checked out just this YouTube channel in general, the Game Maker's Toolkit is really, really awesome. So this video here is pretty short, just 5 minutes, but he talks about the concept of basically IPM, the Introduce, Practice, and Master, and how they use it in the Mario games. And then the last thing I do want to definitely make note of is the difference between IPM and IPTM. So this would be, you're going to be making 2 level mechanics in your level. So we have Introduce, Practice, and Master. You could have basically introduce I'm going to use exploding barrels and pressure plates as examples, right? Introduce the player to exploding barrels, introduce them to pressure plates, practice exploding barrels, practice pressure plates, mastery, mastery, right? You have 6 total gameplay setups using your mechanics. Alternatively, if you want to use a twist or use a set of 2 mechanics that work well with each other and to create one larger gameplay instance, you can do that as well. So introduce the player to exploding barrels, introduce the player to pressure plates, practice exploding barrels, practice pressure plates. But now in mastery, we can twist them together. So now there's a single setup where the player needs to use pressure plates and exploding barrels together. So maybe they need to put a heavy object on a pressure plate, which will then open up a small opening in the ceiling, so then the player can pick up an exploding barrel and throw it at that spot to allow them to progress. So, right, you need to interact with the pressure plate in order to accomplish the setup with the barrel, right? And then you could have your final challenge of the 2 mechanics together, right? So you still have 6 interactions, but if you pick 2 mechanics that have, complements to each other, like things that are different, then you can oftentimes get some really awesome gameplay setups by using a structure like this. So either one is acceptable, but I just wanted to make that known that if you pick 2 mechanics that offer nice support to each other, you can create a structure of using both together. All right, looks like my build finished. Yeah, it looks like it was successful. Cool. Glad to see that. So before I even submit to Perforce, the first thing I'm going to do is just test it. I'm just going to open up the build and just going to make sure that my scene is there. Make sure I don't have like a million characters spawning over and over and over again. Just make sure the build runs. So yeah, there I got my experiment scene and characters working. Perfect. So now I'm going to add this to the depot. So to add it to the depot, come over to the workspace, and now in compiled, you see this whole folder. All right, it's got all these files. So make sure you select your name and hit mark for add. It's really important that you add like the scraps data and the mono bleeding edge. If you don't submit all of these files, I'm not actually able to run your build. So I'm just saying submission for project setup. All right, and now when you submit to FSO, that I'm pretty much just using your submission to know where you submitted your files. So you can select any folder in Perforce, and you see this file path up at the top. So if you look in the workspace, it shows the file path on your computer. If you look in the depot, it shows the file path on the depot. So once you're ready for a grade, you can select your working folder and just copy that file path, and then paste it in FSO. Go back to the technical task. So yeah, you'll see down below here when we have the pasting your compiled link and then pasting one for the working as your essay response. Pretty much where it is on the depot that you want me to look for your activity. So really each week, if you break it down on a week-by-week basis, focus on completing one technical task and one design task. So really week 1, focus on the LDD and project setup. That's what I want your main focus to be. Getting your tools up and running, reading through the creative vision, making sure you understand what Scraps is all about, and then making your initial post and replying to another student. And keep in mind, anything can change throughout this design process. Just by doing the LDD, that doesn't mean it's set in stone. You can always iterate, you can always adjust things to then improve. All right, so then week 2, we're going to talk about this next week as well, but the bubble diagram and the control station, that's your main focus for week 2. Week 3 is a main technical focus, so we're going to do the wind turbine and the entryway, while also working on your map here and there throughout the week. And then wrapping up in week 4 will be more work on your map, and then the final exercise, the simple setup. All right, so now on the depot, I should look and I see my whole folder. And just as like a simulation, if I delete like the scraps data folder and try to run the executable, this is the error I get, saying there should be no data folder found. Should be a scraps data folder next to the executable. If, for example, I delete this Unity Player DLL, it's kind of simulating like if you don't submit it to Perforce, I get an error saying that that file isn't there. So those all of those different data files are important that they get added to Perforce. There, I deleted the mono bleeding edge, failed to load mono. They all need to be added. And just as one final test, I'm going to make sure this works. I'm going to delete my build off of my workspace, right? So I no longer have it on my computer. And I'm going to come over to my compiled folder and say get revision force operation. So this is a really good way to test and see what you submitted to Perforce is actually working and correct, right? So sometimes you can add it, but then maybe you didn't add the data folder or you didn't replace it properly. This is just a good way to, whoops, didn't want to double click on that. This is just a really good way to make sure what you turned in is actually loading, right? Because now I'm playing what's on the depot. Alrighty, any other final questions or comments? Maybe anyone having any problems before I go ahead and close down the training for the day? Going once, going twice. No? Alrighty. Alright, good. I'm glad you got it, Kimberly. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So if you guys have any questions, if you're watching this archive, feel free to reach out to myself or Anthony.